Hi there, traders. This is Brad Gilbert with the FX Market Insight for the 11th of July. Now, we're going into a bit of a quiet period here with the only major sort of data coming out for today in the North American session, really, the US PPI and Canadian central bank meeting. Now, let's just have a look at the currencies here. Now, the Aussie slowly sort of tracking to the top side. Now, what we've just seen is the US have come out, or Trump has come out and said they're going to lay or pin another $200 billion worth of tariffs on Chinese imports. And that's just seen the Aussie sort of just dribble off over the last hour or so. Kiwi hasn't reacted too much. Nothing going on with Euro. It's pretty much sideways, as is Sterling. Then there's also some news out from OPEC telling, well, not really asking, but telling Canada to start investing in some pipelines. Otherwise, they'll take their business elsewhere. And also, Iran has vowed to sell as much oil as it can despite the US sanctions. So I'm surprised oil hasn't gone a little bit crazy. It's sort of hanging there at the moment. Now, dollar yen, this is probably going to be the focus. With these new US tariffs, dollar yen has dribbled off over the last couple of hours. So this isn't fresh news. So it's not, you don't just sort of jump into this straight away. But the pressure is on the downside from this news. Now, if I just give you, come back over to the news page, we can just show you what's going on. This is what's circulating around the market at the moment, and obviously causing a lot of issues. The main headline there, US tariffs on China. Now, the main thing is it's an extra $200 billion. The news-wise, as I'll show you in a minute, these tariffs are going to go to, will be discussed over the next 2 months. And then if it's all agreed, well, then they'll come back and put them on or whatever it is. So it's not immediate. It's just the currencies have reacted, and they always do react immediately to announcements, but it's far from being implemented at this stage. Sterling, well, it's a bit of a cluster. Theresa May, UK Prime Minister's hanging in there at the moment. We had some really weak UK data out yesterday, some manufacturing data, and it was, if anything, it should be a lot lower, but it's just gyrating. The major focus for a lot of traders for today will be the Bank of Canada. Okay. Now, it's 95% factored in that they will raise rates. So it's really going to come down to the Bank of Canada Governor Paul Oz's speech about forward guidance. That's an hour and 15 minutes after the interest rate announcement. All right. So he may, they may raise rates and everyone gets really excited, but he may say that's it. And you'll see a complete turnaround in dollar CAD. It's going to be volatile, that's for sure. As I mentioned before, Iran's getting a little bit sick and tired of the US telling it what it can do, so they're going to be trying to sell. OPEC's chiming in with some stuff there. So across the board, there's a whole heap of crazy stuff going on. And don't forget, on this weekend, we've got the Euro-Chinese trade meeting as well. So everyone's trying to sort of work out a plan what to do about Trump and all this crazy activity. In the meantime, what we're going to do is work out what's going on here with the major currency pairs. Now, as I said, this news about these new extra tariffs, we've been waiting for something for some time. It's not a situation where you run straight in. Now, if you were lucky enough to be at the screens when it was announced, yeah, you've got to trade straight away, but now you've got to, we're 3 hours into this by the look of the where these currencies have started moving. We've got to reassess what is going on. Now, if China come out today with some serious hard talk, well, then you would expect dollar yen to fall as the yen safe haven, and you probably would expect Aussie and Kiwi to fall as well. The European currencies, Euro and Sterling, I don't think they're going to do anything. And dollar CAD, well, we've got the Bank of Canada. So you want to sort of be on hold as we wait for that news to come out. So now what you're going to do is really isolate where the action is. Now, if I just come back across, what I want to show you is let's have a look at the yen crosses. And this is potentially where the major focus is going to be today. If I just come back across. All right, so basically what we've got is the, as you can see, dollar yen sort of leading the charge. Now, we haven't broken down below the cloud, so we may get some activity there today on the downside, and I'll show you in a minute. We've got some Japanese data, which usually would be sidelined, but because today with these new tariffs, I would expect the Japanese equity markets to get hit, and that could drive dollar yen lower. If these corporate goods numbers and machinery orders numbers are weak, we may see downward pressure on the Nikkei, and that gives us a pretty good chance here across a number of these yen crosses. Kiwi yen and Aussie yen. Actually, if I just clear the screen there for a second, you can see there's a bit of a gap, right, when this was announced. So these are the two pairs that are going to be impacted the most. So you would expect to move lower. As I said, the announcement was at 3 or 4 hours ago. So just be aware, through the cloud, if dollar yen breaks down here, then that's when we'll see, that could be the trigger to get into some of these trades. Euro yen, sterling yen, and as you can see there as well, all the commodity currencies, CAD yen also getting belted there on the downside as well. So we've got some gaps in the Aussie yen, Kiwi yen, CAD yen. This could get really, really good for us, I should say. I was going to say it gets sticky, but you know, if this thing, what we need is we need it to escalate, right? Escalate is different to what we have now, and the currencies will react to that escalation. So that's actually a good thing if it does escalate. Now, one other thing that's just having a look here at the US dollar and where those equity markets are, so you can actually gauge what's going on. So the Nikkei is due to open up 50 points up. Now, as I said, this all these trade tariffs, and there is some retaliation or retaliatory talk from the US retail lobby saying it's not a good thing, and he's broken his promise, lots of stuff. I don't think Trump cares about promises, but this is the data here that you want to keep an eye on. Now, if this is weak, it should put further downward pressure on the Nikkei. It's due to open up 50 plus 50. So that should go to the negative. That drives dollar into the downside, and that moves all those yen crosses down. So the dollar index, which was sort of gliding sideways, a little bit of sticky trading activity through the resistance there around 94.20. It's now sort of popped up to the top side and is now sort of testing support again. If anything, this latest action, I mean, you can see how the dollar index broke down on the dailies here, but it's now starting to trade sideways, and if anything, possibly looking for a move to the top side again. So, you know, this is not, you know, when we look at the markets in this situation, I know it's summer markets, coming into summer markets in the US or the North American sessions, you know, and that can get a little bit tricky in itself. But what we're dealing with is really loose geopolitical situations in the UK with regards to Brexit. Canada's got all this OPEC oil situation as well. Don't forget, the Bank of Canada is expected to raise rates today, so don't be surprised when that happens. What we really have to wait for is to see what Apollos comes out with. There's some Aussie housing numbers out here at during the 11:30 in Australia. That could once again, momentum is down, so if we get weak numbers, you'd feel a lot more comfortable to sell Aussie. And then you come through the rest of the data, it comes really into that US PPI numbers. Once again, a key inflation number. But the main release, as I mentioned there before, will be the Bank of Canada. Now, just on this, to finish up, the Bank of Canada basically, right, so when you're looking to trade around these central bank meetings, okay, now it's a good trading opportunity if it's like a 50-50, 40-60, call whether they raise or cut rates or do something. When it's like 95%, the event is pretty much done, right? Because there's only 5% of people who haven't factored it in. What the real thing will be the statement, which is released at the same time. But then Apollos' speech, as I said, an hour and 15 minutes later, that's what you really need to be waiting for. Okay, so don't forget, they are expected to raise rates here. So don't lose your marbles if they raise rates and you're jumping out of your seats, because that's already factored in. Now, just having a look at the current market conditions for today, it's pretty much, if you're in the snowfields, it'll be the same disappointing sort of situation. Loads of geopolitical issues, loads of clouds, and what that is loads of uncertainty. Okay, as I mentioned, the US PPI and the Canadian central bank meeting, but to me, the main thing will be the press conference, right, by Apollos, as I said, an hour and 15 minutes after that interest rate decision. If you come down to the daily analysis snapshot, we are starting to get a little bit of a picture here, though, on a couple of pairs. Aussie, technically, on the hourlies and long term is sort of tracking down. Euro, yeah, we got really weak data yesterday, and still behind the scenes, very quietly, the ECB were, to me, dovish. So we've got a fundamental outlook which is down for Euro, but we don't have the technicals lining up. Aussie, we've got the technicals down, but we don't really have the fundamentals pointing down. And that's where that US-China trade tariff situation may provide the catalyst for that move to the downside. Also, dollar CAD, the central bank is expected to raise rates. That pushes dollar CAD down. The data yesterday, housing numbers, once again, strong, leads to a lower dollar CAD. Funnily enough, on the short term, it's up. So that's we're generally waiting there for the central bank meeting. And the rest of the currencies hang in there. Like we're starting to see some developments. As I said, if there's an escalation of trouble in between the US and China, that's a good thing for traders because it gives us a bit more of a focal point. At the moment, it's just been dragging on because there's one thing after another. So just hang in there. We've got to keep an eye on the news wires. If anything, during this Asian session, I would encourage you to keep a very close eye on the yen crosses, especially with that Japanese data coming out. So what you need to do is tune into the 247 trade zone. That's where you'll find the activity here as we go forward. I'll be posting in there the Chinese numbers, and you can expect some sort of activity here should that go on. So don't forget, jump in there, have a chat with our traders, see what's going on. I'll be posting some updates in there around that those yen numbers and see what happens there. All right, guys, a little bit of activity with these latest Trump tariffs. I guess I was going to say I was trying to come up with something really nice and funny, but can't do that. So anyway, we'll see how this thing pans out. The majors have got some shape, but really no general solid momentum. So hopefully we get some today. All right, guys, have a good one. We'll see you in the trade zone. Cheerio.